Hi, and welcome to DisruptEDtv, where our job is to highlight an idea or a concept, a disruptive idea that sparks a conversation in your school that improves your outcome, improves the teaching experience, makes the world a better place. And today we're here with two very special guests, Tom Berke, chemistry professor at Brookdale Community College.
Thank you.
A real pleasure having you on.
Tom?
And Debbie Mura, who is a journalism professor.
Hey, Debbie.
Thanks.
But you're not here to talk about either chemistry or journalism, although we might get into that a little later on. You're here to talk about something you're calling the Innovation Network. And as I understand it, based on our conversation that we had before the program, based on what I've read, got some material here, your program, the Innovation Network, is about encouraging students to participate in the world at large to solve real-world problems. Now, maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. The idea behind the Innovation Network is to get students together to solve real problems, as you said, but in order to do that, you need to have all the different backgrounds that are needed to be brought to a problem, to solving a particular problem. So one of the ideas that we had was to bring students from lots of different disciplines across campus. So we'd have math people, science people, we'll have journalism students, we'll have speech students, we'll have English students, and each one of them, in addition to all the other talents that are needed, will be brought to the team so that they can contribute whatever is needed to solve specific problems. The students come in from their courses and they're given specific tasks to achieve. Those tasks may be to learn a specific unit of a course. Our courses are broken up into units, or to do a major study which will give them credit for their entire course. We also have, and do you want to talk about the students who come in other than from classes?
Okay, so we have some students who are released completely from attending their courses and work their whole semester through TIN. We have students who are volunteering for TIN or doing part for their class.
Right.
Or we have students who are just volunteering.
Okay.
We also have TIN as part of some courses such as public relations. I did a full TIN public relations class where we walked into the public relations class, they're getting their book learning as well as being dismissed from a lot of these book learning to do a public relations campaign for reading project on campus or for Habitat for Humanity's Restore and Freehold. And so instead of learning about how to write a press release, they were writing the press release.
They're writing a press
Instead
release.
of creating a project to bring more people to Habitat for Humanity, they actually planned the project and brought people to humanity.
What a great way to learn.
It really is a great idea.
Absolutely.
Very participatory, which is exciting. And this is then a 4-credit experience. It's not necessarily just a volunteer program.
Yes.
So it's not extracurricular. It's in the curriculum. It's it's a course you can take, essentially.
It's both.
Great. So it's a little bit of both. I mean, you can get a combination of both. And you know what I like, Tom, about the way you described it is that I can take what I'm learning in math or in engineering and apply some of those elements to solving these problems that you solve in the world at large.
Yeah, what the students find, what they seem to like about the project-based learning is that they are, not only is it project-based, but they're going out into the community, they have a real problem that they can see will make a difference if they can solve it in the community. And when they actually get to the end of the road and they found the solution, they can actually implement it and they can see that it's made a major change.
And what's fascinating is to watch students become connected with their community project to the point where they start worrying more about, did I get enough people to Habitat for Humanity, than am I getting an A in this course?
That's interesting. I mean, you know, that when you kind of distract them from, I mean, most people get so hung up on the grade that they forget what the whole point of getting that grade is about. That's not possible in the Innovation Network because it really isn't about the grade, it's about the service you're offering. And, you know, I think that's so valuable. And also I get some kind of a positive feedback. My effort translates to solving a problem for somebody who really has a problem, I mean a serious problem. And that sort of speaks to your heart as well as your head.
Yeah, the Habitat projects that we've done, we're directly working with people. We have a rain garden project, which wasn't so much working with people, but on the Brookdale campus, we have a reservoir, and the rainwater that runs off the parking lots carries all sorts of probably metals from the engines and oils and stuff like
Sure.
that. And so the students had to learn, one, what a rain garden was, and two, the fact that if you can figure out how to improve it, you can take this water that's running off and remove like 90% of the toxins that are in it. So
Filter
when
it.
it hits the reservoir, the water company that has to purify the water, its job is made much easier.
And
Wow,
what's
that's
very
interesting.
interesting with project-based learning is that it's all student-driven and student-motivated. So we don't even give them a question to begin with. We give them an idea of questions. So for
Okay.
instance, we said, we want you to work on an environmental project on campus. They came up with what that project was and what they were going to solve. And no one knows what the answers are. It's not like the professor in the background could say, got that
yeah,
right,
there's
you
no
got
answer
that
key
wrong.
for this. I mean, either you solve the problem or you didn't.
Right.
And, it's really the problem the problem is your teacher. And you're learning what you have to learn in order to solve that problem. That's really exciting and a whole different way of looking at things. And you've been doing this for 4 years. So 4 years ago, one of you or both of you had some epiphany. Where did this, where did this come from?
Epiphany. Visiting the Oracle. No, we didn't visit any Oracle.
Did you belong to the Peace Corps at one time? Maybe, I don't know.
I wish.
Okay.
It would have been a great experience. Yeah, but basically, I think from the time I started teaching at Brookdale, which was a frightening number of years ago, 1970, I started coming up with projects that would be college-wide. The thing that got me into doing probably something like TIN was a whole bunch of initiatives that the American Chemical Society had supported maybe 30 years ago. One of the things they discovered was that chemistry, straight lecturing, chemistry, breaking the groups up into small groups where a graduate student would come in and do, basically entertain the troops, basically do a series of practice problems. That wasn't giving much of a completion rate. So 30 years ago, they decided they were going to support a half a dozen different initiatives, and all of them turned out to be active learning, not project-based, but more student-based. And
Dirty hands kind of thing where you, yeah, right.
and so one of the things that I had adopted really early on was something called project-based learning, which they usually refer to as PLTL. And what we do is we break the students in the class up into groups of 3 or 4. And we have students who in previous semesters had done well in chemistry come in and act not so much as teachers, but more as facilitators. I sit down with those leaders, we call them peer leaders, are the students who had done well in previous course. I sit down with them before the actual PLTL session, and we either create or we figure from a list of problems that we could use which ones would be best, and they bring them into the class and they give them students to work on. And basically their job is to act as facilitators rather than
Rather than
instructors.
instructors. We hear that a lot. That's great.
they're-
That's important.
Their training is more to, if they're asked a question, to say, well, does anybody in the group know how to do this? Or anybody in the room, because there are a lot of groups, know how to do it. And so you get the students involved. And part of the magic of that, which is part of the magic of the TIN program, project-based learning, is that it seems as though whether the students get an answer to the questions or not, whether they're headed in the right direction towards the answer or not, doesn't seem to be as important as the students talking to each other. And I don't know whether it's getting the information out of the book and dealing with it, talking with it, or whether it's the confidence of working with their classmates and realizing, one, I'm no dumber than they are.
Right.
Sure, right.
And two, we can, if we work together, we can figure out how
We
to
can
solve
figure
these
anything out,
problems.
and that's it. Great, we need to take a break.
We're going to take our first break right now, but we will be right back with Tom and Debbie.
Yeah, Tom and Debbie, this is terrific. Thank
Yep.
you. Welcome back to DisruptEDtv. My name is Al Cini,
My name is Joe Osmendi.
and we have a couple of great guests.
Absolutely.
Terrific guests. Tom Berke and Debbie Mura from Brookdale Community College. And what we talked about before the break was project-based learning with something they're calling the Innovation Network.
Right, TIN.
But these are projects that are ripped from the headlines. I mean, we're talking about big projects. I know the material you brought with you today is about hurricane relief. I imagine that really helps in engaging students in solving these problems.
Yeah, one of the big things that Brookdale does is they bring in, and Debbie has done a lot of work on that, helping the group that you're working with, the one that you're the representative to.
For change?
Change, that's the one. I just totally blocked it.
Okay.
Change is a group that brings a lot of issues, current issues, to Brookdale as well as older issues. And we have a lot of clubs and organizations that are always having speakers come. So we always have something of interest, some issue that's major issue being presented at Brookdale, and making it so that students can participate in potentially solving or giving some help to people who are going through these tragedies is part of what the TIN network is doing.
And because our students are so based in these global issues, when we got together in September this year with the current members of TIN, they were talking about, okay, we want to do things for hurricane relief, but we want to do the Caribbean islands that are not American because they're not getting relief.
They're not
from
getting
FEMA.
they don't have the mind share that
Right.
some of the
And they're
American.
saying, okay, it's horrible enough if you're in Puerto Rico
Right.
or you're in Texas or you're in Florida, but can you imagine if you're a tiny little country and there's no one helping you?
No, I know, and nobody's coming to your aid at all. And
Exactly.
so your students help by staging supplies and staging relief items, and
They're considering doing a 5K run too.
Oh,
great to raise awareness and money potentially too.
Exactly.
So that's terrific. I mean, and you're also thinking. I mean, at some point, you have to keep in mind every one of our programs is designed to be part of a faculty meeting
Right.
at a school. So I want you to be thinking about this. At some point, I want you to explain how a school at a faculty meeting watching this program could begin something like the TIN program in their school. But before we get to that, you mentioned that you're expanding your program to include high school participants. Is that right?
That is correct. One of the really great things about community colleges is that it's community oriented, and the people who come to Brookdale are obviously the students from high school, and who better to get involved in project teams. We would love to be able to have project teams that are working out in our community, consist of students from Brookdale and students from the high schools. So both the students from high schools can be introduced to Brookdale and see some of the things that they can gain by coming to the college, but also to have them participate in solving community problems and have them work on making a difference.
Making a difference in the world, and that's it. And you're working with a friend of ours, Rich Allen.
So,
I know what that can be like. He's got a lot of energy, and he tends to move in a million different directions, and
So
he's a great accelerator for
He's
things like
wonderful, but he's the principal of Poseidon High School in Neptune, and we're looking at working with those students in particular on a community garden in Neptune.
Oh, you
Oh,
are?
great.
So we would be working with the students from the high school in their own community.
In their own community.
And then there would be Brookdale students as well,
And
working to build this garden.
That's important. And because it's local, that's work they can actually do. They're not just staging for that work, but they're actually rolling up their sleeves.
Exactly. And we're looking to build it as a garden that would produce food.
What a great way to integrate the school system and the school district and the community.
Well, that's
I mean, that's
terrific.
exactly right.
I mean,
It's a tremendous way to do it.
You put the kids in the high school on a track to want to go to community college, and you create opportunities in the community college, which at the same time, I think
Right.
that's just so exciting. What I want to get us back to is what I originally asked, which is how does a community college somewhere else start a program
Right.
like this?
Yeah, one of the possibilities is that they can directly contact us.
Good, they'll have an
And
opportunity to do that at the end of the program.
we can talk with them, we can share our experience, and we can
Good.
help them to implement. One of the things that we're working on doing right now is collecting people around the county who are also doing project-based learning, so we can share what we're doing and we can help each other, and maybe each of us can learn something from the other so we can expand our programs. And the other is within the college itself that these people are in, they can, I don't know if surveys work, I don't know how many people actually respond to surveys, but just by talking around, asking around, they can perhaps find some people who are already doing project-based learning and set up a group of people who can ultimately figure out how to spread what they're doing. Actually, I guess, perfect what they're doing within the group, and then figure out how slowly but surely to spread it across campus.
What's amazing and what sells project-based learning are the students who come out of it.
Sure.
Whenever we give a presentation, we stay quiet. We just let our students talk.
Well, it gets them involved. Once you get the students involved, they take ownership of the program, and they have that energy, the youthful energy to run with it.
And they're just so amazing. What they've learned is so amazing that it just sells itself.
Right.
Well, that's great. And I know I'm sure you're getting a great response from the students who participate in the programs. But outside of that, the communities they're serving, like for example, what you might be doing for the community garden in Neptune. What kind of response do you get from the community?
We're just starting in Neptune, but in the past we worked with Habitat for Humanity in Long Branch, and we did a neighborhood revitalization initiative with them, where we went out and we surveyed what their blocks were made of and what do they need in the future. And we worked with a community group that was coming in regularly once a month to talk about how do we improve this community from the inside out.
Great.
Oh, that's great.
Great.
Keep that note in mind. We have come home with our second break, okay? And we'll be right back with you folks.
Yeah, we'll keep talking about the TIN network.
Yeah.
It's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to DisruptEDtv, where every episode we try to highlight an idea that you can use to improve the outcome of your school, to spark the kind of conversation that changes things, make things better. My name is Alcini,
I'm Joe Osamendi.
and we have two terrific guests, Tom Berke and Debbie Mura from Brookdale Community College. I want to make sure I get that right. And they've got a program they developed called the Innovation Network, the TIN program. And coming back in, I'd like you to talk to us a little bit about the nature of the work that people do. You said it's not just brain work, it's also some brawn work.
Yeah, one of the things that the students had done was called a rain garden. And the rain garden is a filtering system that takes runoff from parking lot before the water with all the toxins from the cars winds up in our reservoir. The rain garden would filter it. So the students had to do a whole bunch of work to first figure out what a rain garden was, and then figure out what sort of plants you can put in there that aren't going to be killed by the toxins, that aren't going to be drowned by the water that's running off, and what sort of soil they have to be put in order to get the filtration. And the students not only spent a huge amount of time, probably a lot more than they would have if they were studying for my chemistry class in trying to solve this problem, but they also got all the contacts they could to provide whatever tools they needed to dig the place up. They went out and they got donations of plants that they needed. I think they also must have gotten some soil, different granulations of soil that they used, and they brought their friends and themselves and people from other clubs out one day, or actually a couple of days, and they just dug the whole place up, planted the new plants, and set the garden up so that it is now functional.
That's terrific. Now, Debbie, before the break, you mentioned another very important part of a project like this, getting the word out, finding out from the community what it is they need and how they want the problem solved. They also participate in that, isn't that right?
One of the projects we did was in Long Branch, where our students surveyed the entire community, and they found out it was a 20-block area, and they found out what the people in the community needed and wanted first. And it was a program through Habitat for Humanity called Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative. And so they start from the community and then move out, as opposed to coming in with ideas to impose upon
You
people.
don't impose it on the
Right.
community. The community feels like they participate.
Exactly.
And that, actually, the earlier a student learns in their career that kind of buy-in is important, the better off they are throughout their whole life.
Exactly.
Because the world does not like to have things imposed on them. The world likes to participate in the things that happen for them. And I think that's such a key element of the project you crafted in the TIN program.
One of the things you mentioned during the break too, Debbie, was the fact that different academic environments bring something to the table. So you have somebody from journalism, you have somebody from science, you have a bunch of different, a group of different academic people coming together for one project.
Right.
really
So, for instance, we were
multidisciplinary.
working on the community garden.
Right.
I mean, the rain garden. We had students who from television who
Okay.
were chronicling it. We had students from science and math areas figuring out the mathematicals, and also we had an engineering student who figured out exactly where everything needed to go. What was interesting about that student is he was an ESL student who happened to also be an engineer from Spain, but
Really?
he didn't speak English.
Oh, interesting.
So
Very
we had
interesting,
to have another student interpret for him
Interpret for him.
everything. So everything he did in Spanish was then removed and put into English for us.
Wow, that is really
The
interesting.
funny thing was that the student who did the translating from Spanish was a chemistry student.
Oh, is
No
it?
kidding, that's really funny. No, that's great. So how does this fit inside the academic calendar? Is this a one semester course or a two semester course?
What's generally been happening with this is if the students are exposed to it because they're released for part or whole of a class, they'll stay throughout their career at Brookdale and
Okay.
then become volunteers for it.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Or if they could find another class that will also offer them a TIN experience, they'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that we say about the TIN project is once students get hooked on, once they start actually working, they wind up getting hooked on it.
Yeah.
And we say to the academics that we talk to that we can guarantee you retention because the kids, once they
The
start,
kids wanna do
they don't
that.
want
Right,
to,
no.
they don't want to stop. But we can't guarantee you graduation because once they get hooked on it, they want to keep doing it.
They want to keep
They don't
doing
wanna
this.
leave.
You know, actually, I was going to say part of the problem might be trying to cycle people back into the regular academic schedule from the TIN program. That probably because they like the TIN program so much.
Well, one of the great things about the TIN program and students working project teams is they get to be really comfortable working on problem solving. They get really comfortable working with other people, and it also builds their ego. So, or they wind up having confidence to be able to get back into, if they need to, the regular academic. We lecture at you, you give us feedback on the exam sort of environment.
And
That's-
3 of our project leaders have gone on to start businesses.
Wow,
Really?
that's a big deal.
And you said that 2 of them never would have when you first met them. They didn't.
Absolutely not.
So TIN becomes a competitive advantage for Brookdale, and a program like TIN could become a competitive advantage for a community college anywhere in the country.
Right.
Absolutely.
And part of what it does is it gives the students a whole bunch of the skills that the job world is
Life
looking
skills.
for.
Yeah, they're life
Exactly.
skills. I mean,
Life
they
skills,
really are
yeah.
life skills, including collaborative skills. How do you work together with other
Right.
people who don't know what you know, but know something you don't? And how do you build a team out of all those kind of interlocking strengths?
And
That's
it's
a big
strange,
part
they
of this.
learn something that to us is very simple, but they learn to pick up a phone and call people.
Really, that's so interesting.
That's
That's what a
Because
great
they text
observation.
everybody.
Right, everybody's texting, sure.
That is
I
such
mean,
a-
when they were working on the rain garden, they picked up the phone and started calling planners for the county
Really?
and engineers for the county because they didn't know what else
They
to
didn't know
do.
how.
They
They
had
didn't
to
know what
find
else to
them.
do,
Yeah.
and so well, that's great. And so they discovered the courage inside themselves to reach out to strangers
Exactly.
to find out what they needed, and that is such a terrific life skill.
Right.
No, that's great.
It's amazing that you hear so many negative things about students and things like that. And it's such a positive environment.
It's just
a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's just
And
a
it
home
doesn't
run.
matter if they volunteer for us. Last semester we had two courses. Mine was a public relations course, and another one of our professors did an environmental science, where we said, okay, everyone's going to do this as a TIN project.
Okay,
And the whole course was taught as TIN. And students who came in saying, well, that's not what I signed up for, within 2 weeks, they're so excited about the project and helping other people
wow.
that they're moved away from, oh, I just wanted this grade.
That's real power. That's terrific. Okay, we're coming up on the part of our program, only 30 minutes. We're coming up on the part of our program where you're going to look in the camera and tell people how to reach you so that you can help them build a TIN program, or explain to them how they can help, how they can build a TIN program at their community college. So go ahead and you're on.
Okay, my name is Tom Berke, spelled Berke. I am at Brookdale Community College. I can be reached either by email at tberke, Tberke, at brookdalecc.edu. Sorry, let me do that again. Tberke, Tberke, at brookdalecc.edu. You can also call me there. My phone number is 732-224-2875. We would be delighted to help you. We have a group of people called our TIN Council. We would be happy to talk with you, meet you, come to your school if we need to, as long as we don't have to. Yeah, no. We'd be happy to meet with you in person. There was something else I was going to add.
And we have excellent people in our technology-based areas who, if we can't meet face-to-face, we could set up some sort of video conference with you. We would love to help. You can reach me through email, dmura, D-M-U-R-A, at brookdalecc.edu. And this is something you could start at any grade level, really, and bring it all the way up through college. And it changes everything for our
That
students.
is so key. I mean, the important thing too to remember is it's something you can do. This is doable. It just takes a certain amount of outside the box thinking and a change in behavior on your part to make this kind of thing happen. But it's a project you can set up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it gives students freedom, and it gives them a much better feel of being in education. They wind up, instead of thinking of it as a job or a chore, they wind up thinking of it as fun and having real meaning for them.
I feel like I want to sign up myself. Tom Berke, absolutely a pleasure. Debbie
Thank
Mura,
Thank you.
Tom, it's a very pleasure meeting you.
Joe,
again.
it's great.
Debbie, my pleasure.
Thank you so
Great
much.
meeting you.
great having you both on DisruptEDtv. And thank you all for joining us on DisruptEDtv. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
Right, thanks, have a good day.
Yeah.